I'm Scotty and welcome to video 3 of our Babywise series. We're going to talk about how to drop a feeding. Now in our last video we talked about how to feed your child, wake time, sleep time, and the Babywise process. You know, they're sleeping, you wake them up to feed, then you do wake time, then put them back to sleep. And then now we're at the point where we need to drop a feeding. Now some of the signals that you will experience when it comes to the time to drop a nighttime feeding, the first one, and probably the biggest one, is it seems like your baby is just tired and that they won't want to wake up. No matter what you try, they're just really wanting to sleep. What you might be seeing too at the feeding before the feeding that you want to drop is that they're eating the full amount. So at our 10 o'clock feeding, we found out that Hannah was totally getting the 4 ounces completely, and then at 1 o'clock, she's, when we did feed her, she'd eat a half an ounce maybe and just not want to wake up. So we're like, yeah, she can probably go longer. Now the third signal that shows your baby's ready to skip a feeding is that they are currently gaining weight at a normal rate. If they're underweight, you definitely need to keep waking them up for feeding. But if your doctor is saying, yep, they're on par, they're at the right weight that they should be, yeah, then you're probably okay. Now this chart here is what Babywise recommends for a schedule. Now we followed that pretty closely, and you'll see that at right around the 8-week period, you're getting ready to go into the 9-week. That's when you're going to start considering which feeding you want to try to drop first. So whichever one seems to be when your child is the most tiredest or most difficult to wake up, I would go with that one. Now at the week 16 to 24 range, that is where you should be sleeping through the night pretty well, and then you're going to start thinking about the next step is when to incorporate solid food. Now the goal is to get to week 24 and 25. This is where you are golden. Your child should be sleeping through the night about 12 hours. You should be back to normal, and your child's going to be eating when you eat for the most part. You'll have some snacks here and there, and you'll have some hopefully long nap times. All right, which feeding to drop? That's your choice. We decided to, looking at our chart here on the left, we decided to say, all right, 4 o'clock is when our little angel is really not waking up. She's seeming like she's going to go through, so we chose that one. Now some of the problems that you might experience when trying to drop a feeding is the first thing is your child will probably not go the full time. They're going to wake up before that feeding is scheduled. So you're going to have a couple options. Number one, just kind of wait it out, see what happens. A lot of times they'll cry for a while, then self-soothe and put themselves back to sleep. Now a little bit before 7 o'clock, Hannah would get up, so we found that she would cry, so we just kind of let her go a little bit and stressed her to that 7 o'clock feeding, and after a couple times she would make it with no problem. You might also find that, they're crying, and they're getting irate and they're not calming down. Well, at that point, you have the option of going ahead and feed them and treat it as if you made it to the 7 o'clock feeding. Another thing that can help, if your child is waking up early, you could try at the previous feeding giving them just a little bit more food. And that might get them over the hump of that 15-20 minutes that they wake up early. Now let's say you've got that first feeding dropped at 1 o'clock or whenever you have it. Now it's time to start thinking about that second one. So if you're successful for the first feeding drop, go ahead and give it a couple weeks, but then start thinking about when you get that next one going through. Now some things to keep in mind that if you are dropping feedings, that food, those calories need to be made up elsewhere. So you want to make sure that in the other feedings that you're increasing things just a little bit. So your child has the calories to go through the whole day and get all that they need. Now if you are breastfeeding, you want to make sure that when you're dropping your feedings, you're still doing what you need to do to keep your milk supply going. All right, thanks for watching. We talked about how to drop a feeding. Hopefully we were able to explain that clearly and effectively. Any questions or comments, please let us know. We want to hear anything that you disagreed with, but also want to hear anything that you thought was really exceptionally good. We're going to talk about our next video. We're going to talk to friends who have done Babywise, so we're going to get their input and their tips and tricks about what worked well for them, and we'll share them with you, so stay tuned.